to tear bikes up a little bit, but that's all right. I got a good mechanic, Rocky Williams. He takes care of my bikes, makes sure they're always working good. He's probably one of the best mechanics on the circuit. He travels all year round, works on the bikes, makes sure they can do everything. Me and Rocky been together for about 5 years. Does a really good job. Why don't you come up here and talk to him a little bit. By the way, he's deaf. He can't hear a word I'm saying.
Well, Rocky Williams he's a mechanic for our motocross team. He's been with us 3 years. He's not the best mechanic we have. He's not the worst mechanic we have. He's about average.
He's a small, round man, very arrogant, and but easy to get along with if you know him real well.
Considering all that, he's done very well. He's the only motocross mechanic on the national circuit that's deaf.
My mother and father are hearing. I have a brother and a sister who are deaf, and I have 2 hearing brothers. My sister's name is Melinda, and my deaf brother's name is Harry. So all in all, 3 of us kids are deaf, and 2 are hearing. Harry and I are really different. Harry likes art a lot, and I don't like art. I like to work on mechanics, and I like sports, but Harry doesn't. I always thought, well, his life is always just the same old grind, and I told Harry, remember, later on, I'm going to get rich, you watch me. And Harry said, oh, really? We'll see. And we started challenging each other like that ever since we were 11 or 12 years old. And we've been challenging each other ever since to see who'd win, who'd get rich, who'd get famous, or what. And today, I still have that challenge with my brother.
I remember that my brother, who was older than myself, I'm the second one in the family, I always caused him some kind of embarrassment around his friends. So he decided to sort of avoid me and push me away whenever he was with his friends. And so there I was alone. Well, I knew that I wasn't very skilled at lip reading, but he was skilled at lip reading because he had had some training, whereas I hadn't had any training myself. But I was able then to find my own world in art. So I focused all my attention in on my artwork, and my parents noticed that I had the artistic talent. So from then on, I worked on my art and forgot about my brother and just sort of pushed him out of the picture. I never really feel lonely with things, but I do feel lonely around hearing people. When I try to express myself, what I find is that I end up holding back everything inside. But the times I tend to open up and feel less lonely are when I'm painting. I put into the painting all of the things I want the hearing people to know about myself, what I'm feeling and what I'm thinking. And maybe in this way, it'll make me so I'm not so alone.
Another way Harry and I are different is that he's afraid to ask hearing people questions and things. I told him, you know, don't be afraid to ask, go ahead and ask it. If I ask a stupid question or some other bullshit, if they don't like it, I just shine them on, so what? I'll write it down on a piece of paper if I have to. You have to stick to it and talk or do whatever it takes, but you have to deal with the situation, with a hearing person. In 1975, at that time, I was working with Bob Hanna and Brock Glover. And both of them right now are #1 motocross riders. But before that, when I was working with Bob and Glover in '75, more with Bob. Anyway, Bob and I were working very closely together. Then Yamaha hired Bob to be a factory rider for them. And I figured that he'd take me along with him. But I found out that Bob didn't take me along because he was afraid that because I'm deaf, that I wouldn't be accepted. And that really made me feel bad. But I knew that I couldn't give up because no one knew what I could do or who I was yet. Then Glover was hired like Bob, and he left me behind too, and I was even more depressed. And I started hurting a lot. But there was nothing I could do because, you know, hearing people have an easy life, and I don't have that easy life. I had to challenge and face up to it. Like I didn't have any money sometimes. I had to work for free sometimes. I had to prove to people what I could and couldn't do. Then, in 1977, I started working with Gaylon Mosier, who was having his own problems. He didn't have a mechanic because none of the mechanics could get along with him. So he more or less had to pick me, because when he yelled or got mad at me, I could just ignore it because I couldn't hear him. Lots of times people would tell me that Gaylon was being rude and offhand to me, but I didn't care. All I wanted to do was work. In 1975, Bob Hanna left me and then Glover left. Okay, now Gaylon was offered a job by Kawasaki. And at first, while he was getting ready to sign a contract with them, I went up to him and said, "Are you going to be with Kawasaki permanently? And can I be your mechanic?" And he says, "Yes, for sure. You'll be my mechanic. There are no negative feelings. Everything is positive." But in my mind, I'm thinking that he might be leaving me also. Just like the bullshit I went through in 75, 76, and 77. So I thought, we'll see. So I went home, and later on Kawasaki called me. No, Gaylon called me. He says, "Get your green pants on." And I thought, what does that mean? So I said, "You mean I'm going to be working for Kawasaki?" So I got really excited and went down to Kawasaki to meet the new boss and everything. And without any questions, filled out the application, and they hired me on the spot because of Ryder pulling me in.
I've had 2 or 3 management positions, you know, before I got this one, and I have kind of a pattern of what I like to do when I come to a new department. You know, I like to talk to everybody.